It's time to sit back and check out the RCWR show with Lee Sanders. Get fun, in-depth coverage and analysis from the latest in professional wrestling in AEW, WWE, NWA, Impact Wrestling, or the world of entertainment. From hit TV shows to your favorite sports like the NBA or NFL. All things music, movies, and beyond, while trying to make sense of this crazy world we live in. All while keeping it honest, insightful, and interactive since 2011. And now your host, live from the nation's capital of Washington, D.C., Lee Sanders.
Hey guys, what is going on? Lee Sanders back with you guys for this Monday night edition of the RCWR show for Monday night, March 23rd, 2026. God damn, I can't believe the month of March is like literally about to be over and done with. Like, seriously. You know, then again, I think that's what happens when you run across a little thing called spring break. I know many of you guys, if you are in the college field, are probably gearing up to go back. I know over here on the East Coast, over here in the DC, Maryland, Virginia metropolitan area, we all had our spring break last week. So now we are gearing up to go back. And honestly, I'm looking forward to it. I did a little bit of work here and there, but I mostly had kicked back and caught up doing some stuff around the house, a little bit of spring cleaning here and there. But for the most part, laundry. That was the number one thing that I definitely had caught up on was laundry. But I didn't get to do all of the laundry as I literally had a conversation with the wifey when she came in not too long ago. I said, "Hun, I can't find a pair of goddamn socks for nothing. Have you seen any clean socks running around?" And she's like, "I think there might be some clean pairs downstairs. Let me check. But if not, you're going to have to do a load, wash some socks." I'm like, "Okay, all right, fair enough." So, but yeah, I'm kind of antsy. I'm glad to be going back. I hope you guys that did have spring break, it was enjoyable and everything. Hey, what did you guys think about tonight's WWE RAW? Nice little follow up from what we had got from last week and everything. This episode, very complimentary, a very perfect companion to what we had got from last week's Monday Night Raw. Yeah, of course, if you disagree, you can sound off and let your voices be heard by sounding off a number of ways. Oh, you know what I just realized? You know what I just realized? I don't think when I had saved the stream and I was updating all the respected fields, I don't think that our name, the date, and all that for the episodes was saved across all of social media. Hang on here, folks. Yeah. We didn't do that right, unfortunately, which really sucks. So let me do this. That's the one thing I wish would happen. I wish that when you would automatically save a show, I wish that automatically it would. Hang on here. Let's do this. Yeah, we want to terminate the Twitter stream, and then hang on, folks. Hang on, folks. I hate when that happens. You guys got to forgive me. I hate when that happens. So we want to, let's see. So I just ended the Twitter stream, but I want to try to see if I can somehow go live. No, that's not going to happen, unfortunately. That's not going to happen, unfortunately. Let me think for a second, guys. So there's really no way I can, because I'm in EV Mugs. I'm in the switchboard right now, and I'm trying to see if there's a way for me now that I've ended the stream on Twitter. I'm trying to see if there's a way for me to syndicate the stream on Twitter, but with the correct name. but it doesn't look like there's that ability, unfortunately. That sucks. Okay. All right, so let me just do this just to kind of simplify things for me a little bit more. Sorry about that, guys. It happens. Okay, so now that I've done this, so if I were to hit, just give me a second, guys. So let me tell you what's going on right now, in case you're joining me live. So we did have the show streaming on multiple outlets, but unfortunately, the YouTube stream is the only stream that actually has the correct stream key information and all that. So if I were to end the broadcast right now, what's going to happen is YouTube is just going to be completely cut off. But then it's kind of like, well, what's going to happen with the other streams? The other streams, I would essentially have to go ahead and put in the correct tag information for the other outlets. So unfortunately, that's not going to fly, is it? Yeah. I don't want to deal with it all tonight. I mean, I got to get up but early in the morning. So we'll just have the stream for simplicity. We'll have it be live tonight. So if you have some friends that normally are joining you as you're checking out this show live, let them know the only place where they can tune in and watch us live for this week only is going to be on YouTube. And just to kind of make up for it, I'll open up the chat room right now. So anybody that maybe wants to come in, say hello, sound off about Raw and all that, you can definitely do so. So the chat room is now open. Sorry about that, guys. I'm so sorry. I thought I did everything, but it didn't dawn on me until just now and everything. But yeah, anyway, tonight's WWE Raw from Boston, Massachusetts. I always love it when we get the WWE product in front of a really great wrestling crowd like Boston. Definitely overall the episode, fantastic companion piece to what happened last week. I know we had some people that was a little bit on the fence with the CM Punk Roman Reigns confrontation from last week. It got a decent amount of good high marks from most people, but then that part about Roman calling CM Punk old and Punk just basically kind of looking at that, finding that fighting words and just decking Roman Reigns right on his ass. Roman essentially saying, who's playing the mind games here? He thinks he's playing the mind games, but it's obvious it's a case where I'm in his head. And Roman just basically laughing it up and everything. A lot of people felt that from a writing standpoint, that was just totally whack on so many levels. A lot of people felt that it was lame, lazy writing, and whatever you want to call it. Me personally, I did not look at it as lame or lazy writing whatsoever. It definitely struck a chord with me in setting up what we had got this week and everything. And I thought that was a great continuation. Just when you thought that maybe WWE was going to be, because they're paying attention to what all is being said on social media by fans and everything about certain story arcs and all that. There was a part of me that, saw some of that stuff that was being said last week and was hoping that WWE wasn't going to pivot in any type of way. And that if anything, they were going to double down on what was being put out there. And they did, in fact, double down tonight. I love seeing CM Punk come out there and basically say, yeah, look, am I old? One thing that Roman Reigns had said, hey, am I old? And the crowd is basically chanting no. And CM Punk embraces the fact that he is old. He says, no, you're damn right that I am old. But hey, at least I'm not using just for men's hair dye to cover up my beard like Roman Reigns. I'm just going, damn, dude, do you really have to let the cat out of the bag? What essentially Roman is no, but I mean, look, those of us that have been watching Roman Reigns for a long time, we kind of know he's doing a little something something with the hair. We know he's doing a little something something with the beard and everything. And look, hey, you got to do what you got to do and everything. But I love CM Punk Really hitting all those marks and everything. Some of the other notes that he had said was Roman can't do anything without his cousins. And they basically can't do anything without him. He also brought up the fact that so far, since Roman had announced that it was open season on CM Punk amongst the Samoans against the bloodline, not one person has jumped out there and got at CM Punk. So that pretty much tells you, at least up to this point, that's all that you need to know and everything, right? It kind of tells you that. Anyway, Punk said that he'd be going back to the whole old thing. He said he would be considered a liar if if he wasn't old, right? If he said he wasn't old. And Punk asks his boss, and yet again, if he's old, and yes, it seemed to have it that, okay, well, since you've pled your case, yeah, I guess you are old and everything. And then Punk admits, look, not ashamed of it whatsoever, very proud of it, and that if he was ashamed, he'd be using the just for men and all that. And then I love the whole, hey, look, I'm like Terry Funk right now, and then he went in with the hockey references and all that, but it was just so sad that I was able to know all the names that this dude was mentioning, and yet the crowd, mild reactions from the crowd is like, okay, it's obviously not going over with them. They don't know some of these people that Punk is referencing. Okay, all right, cool. One important thing that Punk had hit on, I love the fact that he had said he might be old, but he's not insecure. He feels great. He feels like he's the best in the world, and that it's a great time to be alive and everything. He also goes on to say that Roman underestimates him, that it was the same old man that dropped Roman Reigns on his ass last week and everything like that. And he talked about how there were other people that underestimated him and couldn't get the job done either. Brought up Gunther, first reference to Gunther that we've heard within the past couple of weeks, as Gunther continues to remain MIA, unfortunately. You also had mentioned Jey Uso, also had mentioned AJ Styles. It was a nice little list of all the people that he had mentioned and everything for what it was worth. That the promo from last week, starting off the whole old thing and then going into this week. I just gotta say, contrary to how some people may feel about the whole old this and it was lame. Nah, man, let me tell you something. As somebody that is just a couple of years younger than Punk, I can relate to this promo on so many levels. I really, really can. And it's really been hitting very close to home for me, as some of you longtime listeners know, for these past handful of years when I have been continuing my education. I went to college, community college, a couple of years ago, graduated from community college last year, and my journey continues now as I transfer to a 4 year university. But with my transfer credits and everything, looks like I'm on track to graduate with my bachelor's either late 2027 or 2028. But I'm bringing all this up because it does connect back to the CM Punk promo and everything. There used to be a point in my life when I had made the decision that I was going to return to school, when I was going to resume my degree. There was a point in my life where I actually felt ashamed to be old. I felt that, oh man, here I am amongst all these young people, and this is a young person's game, and all that other stuff. And man, these kids are probably going to look at me as some type of a failure, or as this, or as that. And I did not have confidence whatsoever, especially as far as whether or not I can keep up with these much younger people. And on the contrary, as scary as it was and everything that had went down, on the contrary, I had came to experience some of the most cool, fun-loving people that I would ever come across. And some of them I am still in contact with to this very day and everything. But no, they looked at me being much older than them, not just as inspiration, but they also looked at it as, well, hell, if this guy can do it, what the hell is my excuse? And Lord only knows, what all this guy is juggling and everything. So, what the hell? Right down to the point, I don't think I mentioned it here on the show, except for maybe over on Wrestling with the Topics with me and Tams. And we do that show every other week. I had told the story recently how a couple of weeks ago there was a student from my sociology class that went out of his way and basically told me, yo, keep doing what you're doing is very inspiring, and he asked me, how have you been enjoying the journey so far this go round, continuing your education and all of that. And it's been a very humbling experience. I gotta tell you. So Punk's promo, to those that are saying, he gets called old and he basically slaps, how lame that. Nah, they're really missing it. They really, and it's good that they have not been in a position where they kind of feel as though their age is kind of maybe against them, right? In their head, they're kind of going, yo, Father Time, it's kind of fucking with me. It's this age thing, and I don't know if I can really keep up with the youngins here and all of that. And so I liked it. I definitely I want to go on record and make sure I really double down. I really liked what they did, and I'm glad that WWE did not back down from what they laid out last week and here tonight. How they had CM Punk continue to lean into that and everything. And I loved how he basically said, hey, look at Jey Uso, look at AJ Styles, look at Gunther. These guys underestimated me because of my age, and look at what I was able to do. Keep on doing that, Roman Reigns, and you're going to find that come WrestleMania 42, I'm going to be walking out still your world heavyweight champion. That basically was the message CM Punk had for Roman Reigns there in a nutshell. Jey Uso coming out now. Jimmy Uso had gave Punk a heads up right before Punk came out in the final segment of the night and said, yo, Jay's been on a war path. He is like unhinged right now. You better tread lightly. And Punk just kind of looked at that and was like, ooh, like sarcastically. And, yeah, gave two fucks not. And rightfully so and everything. And of course, we did see Jey and Jimmy Uso earlier in the night. They were in a non tag title match against the Vision's Logan Paul and Austin Theory. Final moments of that matchup, LA Knight came out trying to make sure that as far as shenanigans go at ringside in favor of the Vision, nah, not gonna go down. There was a pair of brass knuckles that Knight introduced, slid into the ring there for Jey Uso. What is Jey Uso gonna do? Well, surely he's gonna put those bad boys on his fists. Referee sees these knucks clear as day, warns Jay, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. And he cold clocks, I believe he cold clocked Logan Paul with the knucks. And that automatically was the disqualification. Knight tries chatting it up with the guys, the brothers, backstage. A couple of segments later, after the match had went down, and was like, "Yo, yeah, it was pretty good what went down out there, but I'm just a little bit concerned. Look at how everything had kind of backfired a little bit there. Jimmy kind of letting his 2 cents be heard as well. Jay not giving a fuck. But the ramifications of this, as we would find out next week from Madison Square Garden, we're going to see Jimmy and Jey Uso defend those tag titles against Theory and Logan Paul. So actions have consequences. Kind of one of those deals where you're like, wonder if this is going to come back to bite the Usos in the ass. So Jey Uso, very, very unhinged from that night on. And then going into this final segment between CM Punk and what should have been Roman Reigns up to this point, but Roman was still nowhere to be found. Punk was ready to throw it down with Jey Uso, wanting to know what's going on. And if he was ready, he wanted to do it right then and there, then, they could go at it. Punk even saying, you never did truly get your shot for the World Heavyweight Championship. You never did truly get your one-on-one rematch. You always had to jump through some type of hoops. Like, well, we can do this right now. Not dressed for the occasion, but we can throw it down right now. So looked like we was about to get a fight right then and there when all of a sudden Jimmy Uso came out there, was trying to calm his brother down. Roman comes out at this point, pretty much says to the brothers, yo, all due respect, get out of my ring. Instructs Jimmy to get Jey out of the ring. Punk egging on. Yeah, do what your brother says here. Yeah, do what he says. Do what Roman says here. Next thing you know, I'm trying to think who attacked who first. If I remember right, Jey actually attacked CM Punk first. He went after Punk. Punk was trying to do his best to hold off Jey. Roman comes in with a Superman punch to Punk, lays him out. And then from there, Jimmy kind of trying to be the peacemaker here, break everything up, separating everything. Jey says to Roman, you need to handle your business here. How you gonna let him do us like this? Pretty much, I know you ain't gonna let him, off the hook like that. Like, fucking get him, lay into him. You know what you need to do. And then Roman at this point basically snaps, connects with a spear on Punk. Jey keeps yelling at Roman. Roman obliges. He keeps laying it in nice and heavy on Punk, sends him into the ring post a couple of times. Agents, they come out, but I mean, resistance is futile. Like, they could not stop Roman for the love of them. Roman ends up power bombing Punk through the announcer's table. Roman's then pacing back and forth as the fans, they're chanting for one more time. But there's only one announce table, so this whole thing about one more time, it's like, that's like not going to happen. Anyway, Roman decides, okay, damage is done. I'm out of here. Punk is laughing. So you're going, wait a minute. Last week it was Roman laying on his ass, laughing after he got dropped by Punk. And now this week it is Punk in the reversal role. As we hear Punk say, he's not the one that needs help, as the show pretty much wrapped up. So the mind games here that is going on between the both of these guys, I'm just loving it. I'm loving it on so many levels right here, Again, it just really shows you and it really highlights that with what they did last week with the old thing, you just kind of can't help but ask yourself, and observe it from this standpoint. They did the best that they could with what they did with the whole old thing from last week. And they pretty much try to build upon that. And I think in retrospect, could they have maybe took a finer needle to the thread on that one? Yeah, they probably could have, but I think the message was heard loud and clear. I mean, if you just were patient and rather than just be in instant, immediate mode, ready to crap on it, right? And then not to mention, if you go back and pay attention to some of the interviews that CM Punk has given within recent months, newsflash, in case you might have missed it, Punk has actually been dropping little Easter eggs here and there, referencing his age and all of that. So I always kind of felt that in some of those interviews that I was seeing when he was bringing up his age, that this was something that was being done on purpose and that somehow it would eventually leak over to WWE programming. And that's exactly what they had did here. So kudos to WWE for continuing to lay into it. Because, like I said, there was a decent amount of negative feedback over this whole thing, and WWE could have pivoted, but they did not. So this was definitely good. Another thing that was good for tonight's Raw, love how things had kicked off with the Beast Incarnate, Brock Lesnar pushing a new shirt, FAF5. I just might buy that shirt. I mean, it's just simple letters, but it just looks so badass. I might end up checking that shirt out. I don't know. We'll see. But Brock Lesnar coming out there, Paul Heyman basically saying, yo, Oba Femi, we've heard this tune and dance time and time again. This next WWE superstar, they're going to be the next big thing, or this is the next big thing, and like, nah, get that bullshit out of here. So many people thought that they were the one. They were going to be the one to beat Brock Lesnar after Brock Lesnar ended the Undertaker streak, and we'll see how that had panned out. Oh, look at what happened with Bill Goldberg when he tried to meet up with Brock Lesnar. Hey, look at what happened with, insert. Even a mention there of Bobby Lashley. There was even a mention. There was one other wrestler that's now with AEW that was mentioned. I wish I could remember the other wrestler's name. It escapes me right now, but it was nice as I was nodding my head hearing these names being dropped. I'm just like, okay. Dean Ambrose. That's where I blanked out. John Moxley. That name was brought up, so I was just nodding my head, smiling like Mr. Miyagi and Karate Kid there. I'm like, oh, I'm loving this. Paul Heyman basically saying, yo, what went down? Crock of bullshit, because Brock Lesnar was out fighting a bunch of Seth Rollins maxed henchmen. And then when Brock Lesnar pretty much was done with all of that, Seth Rollins essentially was distracting Brock, and then Obi came out. That was just beginner's luck. That's basically how Paul Heyman was chalking it all up. Oba Femi comes out there, second week in his role, in his in-ring gear, mind you. Kind of interesting right there. As we can overhear Oba saying, what's your excuse now? What's your excuse this week? And Brock Lesnar was not backing down. He pretty much was feeling froggy, ready to go at it. Kick to the gut of Oba. Picks up Oba, puts him over his shoulders, ready to connect with that devastating F5. Oba just barely manages to escape from out of it. Ends up clotheslining Lesnar over the top rope, sending Lesnar flat on his ass. Brock Lesnar, he cannot believe it. He is extremely pissed. He is just white hot. He's ready to get back in there and try to get him some more of Oba. But Paul Heyman says, no, not like this. We're not going to do it like this. No. Had a tough time holding Lesnar back. But if you're keeping track now, that's now, count them, two weeks in a row that Oba Femi has owned Brock Lesnar. And yo, I'm loving it. I cannot complain about this whatsoever. I had put the post out on social media, and in part, it kind of reminds me a little bit, and I don't want people to say, oh, because it's a black and white thing. No, because I have another thing that I can reference too. But it reminds me so much, and longtime listeners have heard me mention this particular matchup before, because it was absolutely one of my favorites, and it had showed that Triple H, Paul Levesque, was willing to, okay, I see a lot of potential in this talent, and I want to do any and everything in my power to get this guy over, so let's fucking do it. And that is the back-to-back, remember? 3 weeks in a row on WWE RAW, Triple H had lost to Shelton Benjamin. And like I really wish that today's wrestling crowd could really know that feeling of what it was like to see Shelton Benjamin for all those consecutive weeks owning the hell out of Triple H. But the only thing that I can relay that emotion to is if you were in euphoria seeing what Oba did to Lesnar last week, and then you pretty much had that same feeling again this week with what Oba did to Lesnar, you have just a taste of what me and other wrestling fans felt like back in the day when we saw Triple H get owned by Shelton Benjamin for 3 consecutive weeks, right? Um, this is good. And then, of course, you can always also, in a little bit more recent memory, on the grandest stage of them all, Triple H was never able to one up Dave Batista. Let's not forget about that. Let's not forget about that. The Triple H Batista rivalry. Like Triple H never did one on one. He never did get that win on Dave Batista and everything. So I like what they're doing with this and the fact that it was so emotional. I missed this from last week, but leave it up to you guys that were able to point it out. Y'all were like, yo, Oba was crying last week, and I did not even. You could have fooled me. I thought maybe it might have been sweat, and I mean he is a. As you can see, I'm much lighter. Those of you that's watching the webcast version of this broadcast, I am much lighter than Brock Lesnar. I mean, I ain't got no El DeBarge like complexion going on, but I am obviously lighter than Oba Femi. So I say that to say it was really hard for me to even notice that the guy was crying. But I can only imagine now in retrospect, like how cool. I would imagine it was a really surreal moment for him. Everything was just truly coming full circle. The ovation from the crowd, just how everything was just working in unison from last week, and then essentially building on after that, right? Building around that, building, continuing to build on top of that. I can only imagine that Oba was to the moon and back and all that. And look, we know by now how Brock Lesnar is. If Brock Lesnar sees a lot of potential in you, he's gonna do the right thing, right? It's so much beyond money at this point for Brock, but the money is good. But Brock is also the same type of guy. If he's not really interested in working with you, it ain't gonna happen. And the fact that Brock has continued to put so much trust in Triple H, Paul Levesque, all the way up to now, and the fact that he's willing to be put in this position against Oba, where I love it. I love it. It's one of, I gotta say, the most intriguing matches on the WrestleMania card that honestly I haven't felt this way in a long time when it comes to WrestleMania, because this WrestleMania 42 card, it's got matches that has me go, yo, legit, I'm excited to see this match. I can't wait to see how this is gonna go down. Like, can't wait. Like the anticipation, like the fandom in me. Like I haven't felt that way in a very good minute. So of course, Brock Lesnar is gonna be at the Madison Square Garden next week for Monday Night Raw. How is he possibly going to try and get a one up on Oba Femi next week? We'll have to wait and see how that plays out. We were referencing Paul Heyman earlier. Paul Heyman was not done. We thought that was going to be his one and only appearance. He caught up with Adam Pearce backstage to make a case for Logan Paul and Austin Theory having a shot at the tag titles against the Usos, which we talked about a couple of minutes ago. Pearce pretty much told him he would take it under advisement, but that in the meantime, Heyman had requested some in-ring time so he could address Seth Rollins. Heyman was not a fan of that, saying, yo, you saw what happened with Logan Paul, Theory,
and the Usos earlier in the night, thanks to that involvement there by LA Knight. And then you see what happened with Brock Lesnar. His whole point was he's all alone. Adam Pearce didn't care. So Heyman went out there, pretty much tried to sacrifice himself there, a little sacrificial lamb, basically saying, hey, let's go ahead. Seth Rollins, I know you're here. Come on out. Let's end this right here and right now. And eventually the Max Man entered. Turns out it was Paul Heyman and everything. And a nice little pop from the crowd and everything. But then, bam, right on cue. Boston's finest, Boston PD, Blue Bloods. Shout out to my Boston. I got to hear from my people in Boston. I know we got a decent amount of listeners in Boston because I check out the analytics. I got to ask you guys this question. It only serves right because Raw was in Boston this week. But I'm just curious. Blue Bloods, for those of you that are Blue Bloods fans like I am, I'm just curious from those of you in the Boston area, how accurate of a portrayal was it there that Blue Bloods did of your beloved city? I'm just a little curious. So sound off on that. Let me know. I'm curious what the reactions to that is going to be. Anyway, Boston police pretty much right there arrested Seth Rollins on the spot as turns out Paul Heyman reveals that he put out a restraining order that's going to keep Seth Rollins 50 feet away from him. Well, Rollins violated this, so as a result, he's going to be going to jail. To which Paul Heyman is egging him on, saying, hey, now that you're going to be going to jail, you're going to be losing your job, and then your wife, she's going to end up marrying half of the locker room, Becky Lynch and all that. And ultimately, Heyman will adopt Seth's daughter so she won't go through life, Well, Rollins had enough of that, and he pretty much decided he was going to get in some type of attack on Heyman. He was able to get in a punch and knock Heyman on his ass. Police come in there this time. Not only do they secure Rollins, they handcuff him as well, take his ass out. Heyman is left sitting on his ass, busting a hearty laugh. So here we are again with the mind games. Paul Heyman, game of chess. He is always a move ahead. So this played out perfectly for Paul Heyman. But look, we all know that when it's said and done, Heyman is going to get his just due because Rollins is somehow going to get this legal crap squashed, and the road to WrestleMania is still going to be on when it's all said and done. On a more interesting note, let's also keep in mind we still don't know what is going on with Braun Breaker. We know Bronson Reed, that's definitely past WrestleMania, but now the word is that got my bronze mixed up, Braun Breaker, he could possibly be back in time for WrestleMania. I know there is a report that was picked up by the good folks at PW Insider and a couple of other outlets that Braun Breaker is at the Performance Center this week, apparently, trying to see if he could potentially get cleared for in-ring action by doctors. So it's kind of one of those keep your fingers crossed and everything. I expect them, honestly, at this point, we've got 26 going on, 25 days to go until WrestleMania. There's no reason to rush. They literally are going to be able to truly take their time with this. And honestly, if they want to do a week where Paul Heyman is just glowing and he's gloating over the fact that Seth Rollins is currently incarcerated and all that other crap, they can definitely go that route. Like, if they really want to, they can definitely go that route. At the same time, however, given some of the trash talk that Heyman put out there earlier tonight, bringing up Becky Lynch and her sleeping with half the locker room and all, I wouldn't mind seeing Heyman and Becky cross paths yet again. Speaking of Becky, shout out to Becky Lynch. Rather unfortunate what happened with her Star Trek series. Star Trek, what's it called? Fleet Academy. I kind of lost the names after a while there, but apparently the show, that's it. They'll be back for a second season, but that's going to be the last season. So it's kind of interesting seeing some of the people go, well, the show wasn't canceled. They're coming back for another season. That next season is just going to be its last. I really wish people would take the time out and they would do their proper research and all that, because had people quietly, even if you've never watched the show before, if you just quietly did your research, you would know that when this particular series had premiered on Paramount Plus, the show, amongst critics that review shows, majority of the critics, they liked it, but when it came to the viewers, vast majority of the viewers did not like this series, and the metrics for this show was not good. Like, I was reading somewhere, I should have saved my notes, but I was reading how with each week that progressed, like, it wasn't even in, hey, this is the top streaming new original shows for this week, that, like, it wasn't even on any of those lists. Like, it was really, really bad. It was just going lower, 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 and lower. And look, that's a cold reality that happens to some shows, unfortunately, especially in this day and age where you can pretty much, like, pick a app, any app, and whatever original show you're trying to watch, like, there's something for everybody and all that. So, what happened with this particular show originally, it's kind of like what happens with my favorite television show franchise, Power. And basically, okay, your season is getting ready to premiere, but ahead of it, we're gonna give the green light for another season. And it's like, damn, we haven't even, like, seen the first three, four, 5 episodes of data so that we can see what's going on with the viewership and all that. What the hell? Sometimes it's like that. I know some of the producers for this Star Trek show that Becky Lynch stars in, they went on record and they said it was never our intent to make it be a 2 season show. We were writing with the impression that, we were going to be like multiple seasons. So the fact that these guys are being given the opportunity to come back for their one more season and a pretty little ribbon is being put on it, like, that's really good. On a sidebar note, I was surprised that AJ Lee didn't get in a dig on the fact that Becky Lynch's Star Trek show got canceled. She always wants to talk about, hey, Sports Illustrated and blah this and blah that. I was kind of hoping that the cancellation of the show was going to somehow be brought up, because that would have been a really nice ass dig. Did not happen, unfortunately. As Becky Lynch, the man, she was out there and everything. She talked about how when she went home to the people that appreciated her, and she really wasn't sure what was going to be happening with her career, if she was going to be coming back at all. When she did decide that she was going to come back, she wanted to go and chase after the women's IC championship. And she, as far as she's concerned, made it the most important and interesting title in all of wrestling. She's proud of that championship. By the way, quick sidebar. In this segment, did anybody else notice how many times they kept saying title, 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 not championship? I'm okay not hearing the word belt, but when we get to that point where we just keep hearing title, 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 I don't know. But yeah, she felt that championship has become the most important and interesting championship in all of wrestling. She's proud of that title. And but now to see AJ prancing around, with it, it just discussed her and everything. Becky tried to take a break after Elimination Chamber, but when she went home, her daughter was singing AJ Lee's song and skipping around and all that. And damn it, that was just fighting words right there, right? She didn't like what she was seeing her daughter do and everything. And that she also said it's like she doesn't realize her mom is the greatest female wrestler of all time. AJ's greatest claim to fame was when she mastered the Divas era. Meanwhile, Becky, she essentially murdered the Divas era, uh, destroyed the wings off that ugly butterfly championship and all that. So AJ Lee comes out. She pretty much says, "Okay, I get what this is all about. Like, you know, we need to run this back one more time. I see. Like that's the only way I'm really gonna be able to shut you up once and for all. Okay, all right. So you want me to embarrass you one more time? Sure, we can do it. We can do it at WrestleMania. Becky Lynch, she pretty much goes, "You dope. You played right into my hands right here." And she talks about how the last time AJ competed at WrestleMania, she resigned the day after, and we didn't hear from her for over a decade. Well, let's go around. Becky's going to save AJ the trouble. She'll end her, and we'll never have to hear from her again. Welcome to the big time. So, officially, we now got AJ, Becky for the Women's Intercontinental Championship going down at WrestleMania. Nice little exchange. I appreciate the fact that Becky didn't lean too heavy into the over animated theatrics that we've seen her do in previous weeks when she's had these promo segments with AJ. AJ is continuing to get even more and more comfortable on the microphone. Now that the weeks are progressing, I think the butterflies are starting to kind of right. That's good. That's what we want and everything. Because I tell you, those first couple of promos from AJ, she was really out there, and it just felt like. Oof, we had the natural high, but after the natural high was over, then it started feeling like, okay, so what are we really doing here? Like, what's really going on here? So, they're complimenting each other very well. I'm glad. I'm really glad Becky Lynch dialed it back though on the animation stuff. Really am. All right, so that's that. Just thinking about some more in-ring action from tonight's show. Javon Evans picked up a win over Grayson Waller. Pretty good stuff, as always. Not too shabby of a match. Bayley and Lyra Valkyria, they defeated the Kabuki Warriors, Asuka and Kairi Sane. As a result of this was actually a pretty good match, and not to mention a really good showing too for Bayley and Lyra. Kairi continues to disappoint Asuka as Asuka demanded that Kairi somehow makes this right, because we found out that Bayley and Lyra, they will have a shot against the women's tag team champions in the irresistible forces there, and Nia Jax and what's my girl's name? I'm drawing a blank on her name. Lash Legend. They'll be facing those girls next week, Madison Square Garden. So that should be a pretty fun match. But kind of keeping what Asuka said to Kairi in the back of your head, you know, what's going on there. We saw Io Sky. She tried to chat it up there with Kairi and say, it just sucks how Asuka continues to treat you. You don't deserve to be treated like that. And Kairi's kind of looking like, yeah, I hear you, but yeah, like, what am I gonna do? Raquel Rodriguez having some words with Io saying, yo, if it wasn't for you and your interference last week, probably would have became champion there. Like, what the hell? And Kari's like, well, I'll keep on interfering, right? So this pretty much sets up Raquel challenging Io to a match. It would be made official later on in the night. Next week on Raw, we'll be seeing those two girls throw it down as well. See, Intercontinental Championship match. Penta successfully defending against Dirty Dominik Mysterio. Finn Balor making his return in the final couple of minutes of this matchup and everything. JD was up on the apron. Penta got distracted, which pretty much sets him up for the 619. Dom went up to the top. That's when we hear the music of Finn Balor. Dom can't believe what he's seeing with his own two eyes. JD tries running to meet Balor, gets dropped on his ass. Finn ends up sending JD into the crowd. Dom tries going up for the frog splash, but that gets reversed into a fruit roll up, 3 count. Penta retains that way. Finn then tries dragging Dom back into the ring, starts punching on him, connects with the sling blade, followed up with the shotgun, drop kick, tries to go up to the top rope, looking for the coup de grace. JD drags Dom out of the ring. Finn bounces off the ropes, jumps over the top rope, crashes into them. Ends up getting his hands on Dom for just a hot little bit. But then JD interferes again. So JD is at the receiving end of a shotgun drop kick and the coup de grace. So Balor back a little too soon for my personal taste. But here we are again. We're doing this nice little build for WrestleMania, trying to make sure that the card has a little bit of something for everybody, right? So I'm down with that. I'm totally down with that. Also, let's not forget, right before this match between Penta and Dom began, Liv Morgan was around the arm of Dom, and out of nowhere, Stephanie Vicare just pounced on Liv. I mean, she was beating the holy crap out of her. And then Liv Morgan ended up getting back on the offense, doing a couple of reversals. I hope Stephanie Vicare is okay, because there was a nasty ass bump that she took going into the LED board over by the gorilla position. And I hope that was just the hands that I was hearing, because if that wasn't the hands and that was like her actual head, I hope she's not concussed, because that joint was just. By the way, did you guys happen to see on social media, there's an interesting picture that is floating around of somebody that actually got a tattoo on their arm of Stephanie Vicare. Hey, look, man, look. I love tattoos as much as the next person. And I love the ink that was done for Stephanie Vicare. I mean, dude picked a really good image and all that. Like, I ain't gonna tell nobody what they should and shouldn't do to their body, especially when it comes to tattoos, right? Like, whatever makes you happy at the end of the day. What can I say? I mean, I know a lot of people were like tripping over this and all that, and they were like, what the fuck? Calling the person mental and a whole bunch of other stuff. Hey, look, they're a fan. This isn't me mellowing out or me becoming soft or anything like that. It's just, you're talking to somebody that has seen a lot over the years. I mean, I can still remember how back in the day that there were individuals that would get Hulk Hogan on their body for a tattoo. I mean, I've seen my fair share of crazy tattoos. I really, really legit have. If you ask me what has been like the most insane tattoo I have seen to date, I remember one of my friends from back in the day. She had got this tattoo of a saber-toothed tiger, I think it was. And she got this tiger how can I say this delicately? She got this tiger on her crotch. That's like really the nicest way cleanest way I can say it. And I just remember one day we weren't dating or anything like that. But we both had like a serious love for like tattoos, and we would always like show each other like, different stuff and all that. And we just had at this point we happened to work at this same call center. This was like during our senior years in high school, right? So this was a long time ago. And so she says to me, man, she goes, my crotch hurts. And I'm like, dude, that is like so fucking random. I'm like, what's wrong with you? And she goes, no. My crotch hurts. I'm like, maybe you got a VD or something. And she's like, shut up. She's like, no, my crotch hurts. I got a tattoo. And I'm like, really? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, what'd you get? She's like, I got a tiger. I'm like, really? She's like, yeah, I got a tiger. Like that. Okay, cool. And she's like, you want to see? I go, no. And it was like, I've never said no so fast in my life. And she's like, no, come on. I want you to tell me what you think of it. I'm like, but we're like here in a lobby, right? It's after hours, but like we're in a lobby, right? Like, and I told her, I said, we're in a lobby. She's like, I'll be quick. I'm like, okay, all right. If you want to show me your tattoo, go ahead. And so she actually showed me her tattoo, and I was like, and I remember asking her, why there? And her answer to me was, well, why not there? And I go, well, okay, that's a good point. But I even said to her, I said, couldn't you get it on your arm or couldn't you get it on your leg? And she goes, I could have, but I thought this would be cooler. And I remember saying to her, did it hurt? And she goes, fuck yeah. Like, well, how did you? She's like, I had a lot of booze. I was like, okay, cool. So I've seen my fair share of crazy tattoos. There's nothing that really surprises me at this point. Remember, we were on this show a couple of months ago when I had said to you guys that there were some freaky ass men online that was doing all kinds of tributes to Stephanie Vakir online and everything. So, whatever floats your boat, man. Like, I'm not going to judge. Just, again, whatever makes you happy. Pretty solid edition of Monday Night Raw for this week. The in-ring action, pretty decent. Next week, though, they're shaping up a really, really good, strong card. Very complimentary, I think, to what they had did this week and everything. I personally feel, though, they should have waited another week or two for Finn Balor. But this just kind of almost feels like the whole, oh, the luck of the Irish. We got to somehow pay it forward. The luck of the Irish and all that. Finn Balor. So it almost kind of feels like that to a certain degree. Let's see what you guys had to say about this week's Monday Night Raw from Boston. Right now, Twitter at the RCWR show. Go cast your vote. Right now, 100% of the vote coming in. Decent amount of you guys are saying you're going to stay in the middle. Keep the voting coming in and all that. Love hearing from you guys as always. Loved hearing Michael Cole and Corey Graves during the Raw broadcast, by the way. Mentioned the passing of the Midnight Express's Dennis Loverboy Condrey. He passed away like right before the weekend. He passed away on March 20th, 2026. Now look. I am like many of you. At the end of the day, I am a listener of a few podcasts. My guilty pleasure is definitely Jim Cornette and Brian Last. I can't wait to hear Jim Cornette because I know Midnight Express. I can only imagine how emotional Jim Cornette is going to be, and the fun stories that he has that he'll be sharing and all that. So I cannot wait to hear the tribute. This is not what we're doing right now. This is not a tribute to Dennis Loverboy Condrey, but it is, a case where whenever we have a passing in the wrestling business. We always try to pay it forward and do our best to talk about it here on the show and everything. Live the nice, long, rich life, although some would consider 74 to be kind of young. As far as the cause of death, that is not publicly disclosed right now. Again, I would imagine that by the time Jim talks about it, he'll definitely have much more information. I wish that WWE could have done much more as far as recognizing the passing of Dennis Condrey. Some could maybe even be like, is it a library thing? Like, in part, yeah, but look, just the fact that they mentioned him, and they mentioned him at like a pivotal moment, if I remember correctly, they mentioned him during the tag match actually between the Usos and the Vision. So that was a great placement right there and everything that they brought up. Now for our younger wrestling fans out there and helping you understand wrestling of yesteryear a little bit more, because I know there's a decent amount of you guys that are going down that rabbit hole, checking out the old school wrestling. This man matters because he was the founder of the Midnight Express. He helped create the original Midnight Express in the early 1980s, and then later formed the most iconic version of the Midnight Express with Bobby Eaton and, of course, Jim Cornette. And that version, you can talk to me or you can talk to any other wrestling fan, and we all in unison will tell you that is, like, without a doubt, one of the greatest tag teams ever. Definitely helped define tag team wrestling. I mean, the Midnight Express versus the Rock and Roll Express, easily one of the greatest rivalries ever of all time. I mean, their matches, you want to talk about where you want to go. Long form storytelling, check. Way to build a crowd and build it the right way through the right type of heat, check. Setting the blueprint for modern tag team psychology and all that, check as well, because a lot of today's tag team wrestling, you can look at this, they all are borrowing from the blueprint that the Midnight Express laid out. I mean, you can even look at a more recent modern tag team like FTR. They model their style after the Midnight Express and everything. Definitely masters of the ring was the Midnight Express, especially when it came to selling, timing, the offense. I mean, the offense, man, was just. I can remember being a kid growing up in the 80s, and it was just like, wow, I've never seen a tag team like this. There was such great fucking synergy. It was insane. It was insane. And then the championship resume for the Midnight Express itself. What are we talking, guys? Because I lost count. Like, at least 50 plus tag team title reigns across various promotions, working in Jim Crockett Promotions, NWA, AWA, NWA. I mean, they just were all over the place, and they always tried to do their best to pay it forward. They would always be willing to give any advice if they were sought out, and essentially mentor and all that, right down to the point. Even Dax Harwood of FTR had said that Condrey would text him many times after his matches and tell him what was working, what wasn't working, and all of that. Very important context too in regards to Dennis Condrey is, when you look at when he was coming up and everything, he was coming up during the territory days. So this was definitely before WWE became global. And these were the days, of course, where you were building a reputation for yourself, town to town, territory to territory, that you were fortunate enough to work in and all that. And at the same time, if your work was really to that, really good level, then you were essentially setting up a bridge there, right? So with what he laid down, the foundation that he laid down, that old school type of wrestling, it definitely had ushered in at the same time when he came in and pretty much kind of revitalized the tag team industry. It almost brought a modern era to the tag team division, which complemented the modern TV era style of wrestling that was about to happen and everything. Condrey, never was a WWE mainstream guy, but he was still elite. He didn't have a big WWF or WWE run, but he was still widely considered as one of the greatest tag team wrestlers ever. And the mainstream exposure is is proof of that when it's all said and done. Midnight Express, always in the GOAT conversations when it comes to tag teams. So without Condrey, tag team wrestling doesn't evolve the same way. A lot of the modern pacing and storytelling, it just does not exist. So this isn't just about, oh, it's another wrestling death. No, in this particular case, this is one of the guys who literally helped define what tag team wrestling is today. So rest in peace, rest in power to Dennis Loverboy Condrey of the Midnight Express. Like I said, I cannot wait to hear what Jim Cornette and Brian has to say about the passing of Loverboy Dennis Condrey. Should be a really good tribute. And I'm looking forward to it. I don't mean to say it like, because I'm not giddy, and it's definitely going to be a fun time of reflection going down memory lane to the old school talk of wrestling and all that. But that big encyclopedia of knowledge of a brain there that Corny and Brian has, like, next thing you know, 2 hours has gone by and they've just been on one subject. So I know they're going to be very in depth on it, and as they should and everything. So that's that. By the way, I heard the news there about. I want to address this, and I'm going to choose my words carefully, but I want to be blunt about this as well. I see over the weekend there was some news that came about from Jonathan Coachman where he revealed that potentially Bianca Belair, from what Coachman has heard from his respected sources, that Bianca Belair may be getting that finger on her left hand amputated. Basically all the treatments, whatever Bianca has been doing all these months, it hasn't been working, and unfortunately she may have to get the finger amputated. And I know a decent amount of fans were upset over the fact that Coachman was the one to reveal such sensitive information like this, and kind of questioning whether or not it was in Coachman's place to be revealing this information and everything. It's a very slippery slope, isn't it? It's a very delicate situation. On the same flip side to that, some of you all have pointed out how Jonathan Coachman and his respected co-hosts, they have both blatantly admitted that they really don't watch the wrestling product. And pretty much when they are talking about it, they're only talking about it because they're kind of in part being paid to talk about it. So it's, yeah. Let's just deal with the Bianca Belair situation. Let's just deal with that first. How I personally feel about that. It's not Jonathan Coachman's place to reveal such personal information. I don't care how he came across this information, whether it's a case where he heard it from a family member or a very close direct friend of Bianca Belair that he's buddy chums with, or however he was able to obtain the information. Guess what? It's not his story to break. It's not for him to tell. I definitely feel that that was essentially crossing a line, a very sensitive line. I just kind of feel as though with everything that this man has done in the wrestling business, with what he did when he was associated for many years with ESPN, my whole thing is, why didn't Jonathan Coachman, when he had obtained this information, maybe try to go out of his way to get in contact somehow with Bianca Belair and be like, yo, this is the information that I'm hearing. And do you care to offer some type of comment? Is there anything that maybe I can share with my listeners, with the wrestling community, if you're really not able to, now, granted, he's not really revealing anything new, because remember, there was a couple of months ago where I believe it was on her Instagram account, Bianca Belair had posted basically an image of her finger, and she was saying, hey, I'm so sorry, guys. It's taking me much longer to come back than I anticipated. This damn finger, and I'm trying to see. Keep me in your prayers, and that pretty much was the gist of what Bianca laid out and everything. But for what Jonathan Coachman, let's just assume the information that he was putting out there. I don't think he was lying. First of all, I don't think he was lying. Let's take it at face value. Now the question becomes, was it in his place to reveal this sensitive information? And I get the game that Jonathan Coachman is playing right now. What he's trying to do is basically, he has a brand at the end of the day. And he's got to continue to somehow feed that beast of a brand. And if that means he comes across certain exclusives that, okay, well, before any of these other guys are able to put it out there, we definitely need to be the first because this is an opportunity here, then he is in a position where he's going to seize on that opportunity, and he's going to exploit it. He's going to go there. That's just it's unfortunate. It really is unfortunate, because there's good forms of journalism, good forms of reporting, and then there is just, okay, we're doing the tacky tabloid exploitive bullshit, right? And it kind of seems like Coachman is going for that latter part. And it's unfortunate, because I think the man can be so much more than what he's currently putting out there. He should be better than that. So I would have honestly expected more from Coachman. I really do. I got to say, it was kind of surprising to see that he would put that out there. But then at the same time, having been doing the podcasting for as long as I've been doing, let me tell you something. If I were to tell you just some of the things that I have been fortunate enough to learn about wrestling news-wise, about an individual, or like, yo, this is like some big news, but like, nobody knows this yet. and basically the information was being given to me, and I can't say anything about it. And it's like, okay, do I want to burn a bridge, all in the name of trying to get my brand over and all of that, or do I just want to go on ahead and sit on this and let's see how this plays out? And if I were to just, nah, I'm gonna burn bridges. Oh my God, I'd have so many people pissed off at me right now. It would make no sense. It just would not make sense, especially when it's a case where this information, and this is where journalism really, really comes into play here because, and I'm surprised Jonathan Coachman didn't like pump the brakes here and just be like, well, wait a minute. Let me make sure I'm kind of doing this right because, I want to make sure that I'm doing right by Bianca, and I want to make sure that if I'm going to be talking about this, you know, it sucks. It really, really does. I'm reminded of this journalist that I'm a big fan of. I love his work. His name is Scott McFarlane. He actually used to be part of the NBC4 Washington investigative team for a handful of years. Then he eventually left News 4 and he went to become um, a Washington News Bureau reporter, investigative reporter uh, for CBS. And he just left CBS, I think it was maybe 2 weeks ago. He revealed earlier today on social media that he's now going to be working for the Midas Touch. And, one of the things that he had talked about was basically, we're in a day and age right now where reporting now than ever, it's so important, it's so critical, and that when you read in between the lines of some of the stuff that he was saying, and I actually have some of the quotes that he had said from earlier. When I was looking at his quotes, I was like, wow, way to essentially bury CBS here and all that. And part of what he said was, I'm not an opinionist. I'm not an editorialist. I'm not someone who waves pom poms. I'm focused on being an enterprise reporter who gets at the truth and does not abide the whitewashing of history or the erasing of what people have said. And that should command attention right now because we're not just battling to find news and truth. We're battling a force that is trying to contaminate and metastasize across all media. So, you know, just kind of circling back to Jonathan Coachman and all that, well, it's clearly obvious that the way Coachman is trying to position himself with his podcast and all that, he's trying to be a opinionist, right? Definitely he's not going for the editorialist joint, right? He's definitely not trying to go in that position. So, if you are expecting him to go in a direction where he's going to be fact checking and he's going to try to do his best to reach out to respected sources, and it's okay if you're assuming that because you're like, oh well, he worked with ESPN and a couple of these others, so he kind of has that. Well, it's clearly obvious that's not the direction that he's trying to go for his respected brand. So as long as you kind of make a note of that going forward, nothing going forward should ever surprise you that comes from out of his mouth. But was it out of bounds? Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely it was out of bounds there. Just trying to think if there was anything else that kind of caught my eye wrestling news wise before we get ready to wrap it up. I know we did a poll a couple of weeks ago and I was asking you guys, hey, should I check out WWE 2K26? And shout out to Stevie Richards and James Romero. They had put up a really good video, and I'm just disgusted over the ridiculous microtransactions that has just plagued the hell out of this new installment. And I mean, unless there's been some type of an update, I can't believe. Let me see if I got this straight. So the $150 game, which is the limited edition, the Monday Night War joint, you got the WCW guys, Eric Bischoff and all that, and right, WCW versus WWF and all that. Let me see if I got this straight. So you pay for that $150 version of the game, and you don't unlock any of those people off the break that's on the front cover of that game. And then furthermore, you, like, if you're trying to unlock an entire move set, that's going to cost you real currency money. And then if you're trying to unlock all the additional characters that you were hoping would be unlocked off the break for the respective game that you purchased, no. You gotta go in and grind the shit out, or come up with that money to essentially unlock all of that. That is fucking disgusting. That is disgusting. I was having a conversation with the wife about this the other day, because we actually were watching the Stevie Richards clip, and I said to her, "Hey, watch this with me." I'm like, he's talking about the new 2K game, and she was like, "Oh, okay." And we both were just shaking our heads, going, "Well, first of all, $150 for a video game, like," and I said, "Yeah," I said, "That's the point where we're at right now." And she was like, "That's ridiculous." I said, "That $150, gee, I don't know. That's a new tire for your car. Assuming you find a really good deal. And that's not, before anybody goes, that's a cheap ass tire. No. Like, you're looking around, right? It's a good deal for a really damn good tire. That's also, depending on how old your car is. And if you know a really good mechanic that can hook you up, that's a really, that $150+ that's a good thing to be paying to take care of your knock sensor, or whatever's going on with your car, right? So that's just crazy to hear. $150 for a game, and everything that is like on this front cover of this game that you are supposed to be accessing off the break, you don't access it off the break. I ain't never heard no shit like that before in my entire life. I remember one of the last times that I was regularly playing 2K. I definitely remember playing WWE 2K13. I remember that for a fact because CM Punk was on the front cover. I actually still have the t-shirt that came with that game when you pre-ordered it too. Boy, I miss the days of the mighty pre-orders, man. You used to get some really, really damn good merch when you would pre-order. I even remember the 2K game that came out, the limited edition Ric Flair joint. You got the Ric Flair Hall of Fame ring. They gave you all kinds of cool little things. There was even a limited edition John Cena joint, from what I remember, as well. But no, the last time I regularly played 2K, I played 2K13, 14. I think I might have took it up to 16, and then I was like, okay, you know what? I'm done. I'm done, because now it's just kind of getting a little bit redundant, and then the gaming controls, it just seemed like it was becoming more and more complex, and all I wanted to do was just pick up a game, pick up a controller, play a wrestling game for like, 10, 15 minutes, something that was just easy to just press this button, boom, 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 that's it. And I mean, it's just gotten so over my head now. It's like, nah, I'm good. I'll watch other people play it, or I'll just pull it up on YouTube and, watch some gameplay. That's pretty much how I do it now. But to just know that the microtransactions, like how disgusting it has become in 2026 with these games, it's not going to stop. It's not going to stop. It's just, you think this is bad right now. we still just getting started. We are still just getting started, man. Let's see. Other than that, I'm just trying to think if there's anything else we need to get into here on the show. I'm just kind of looking at the headlines real quick here. Shout out to Tony Storm. I don't know what's going on with the woman. 1 minute we're hearing she's rolling out from AEW due to injury. Now it's being said she's not dealing with injury. Now people are saying, maybe Juice Robinson got her pregnant. Maybe that's what's going on. And look, whatever is going on, just keep her in your thoughts. That's a nice thing to do. Like, whatever is going on, hey, nothing but the best, right? Just wish the girl for nothing but the best. That's all that you really can do. See, other than that, apparently there's let me tell you guys the card for this week's AEW Dynamite, by the way. So right now, the way the card is looking, we got an AEW Women's World Championship match as Thelka will take on Mina Shirakawa. EVP versus number one contenders match, Kenny Omega versus Swerve Strickland. By the way, kind of hilarious how last week on Dynamite, they kind of just stumbled upon that whole thing. I wasn't even aware Swerve Strickland was the number one contender. That was pretty hilarious. Darby Allin versus Roosh. David Finlay and Clark Connors versus Orange Cassidy and Roderick Strong. MJF is set to appear as well. That's what all is going to be coming up on this Wednesday's AEW Dynamite. You remember when we were talking about Triller TV last week, y'all? Well, there's some reports floating around that a new company is reportedly looking to buy Triller TV. Kind of interesting there. Shout out to Ricky Morton, somebody that I follow on social media. He's set to be at the Performance Center, I think, as a guest coach all week long. So that's really, really cool. See, Ted DiBiase Jr., I see that he beat some latest charges. Whoopee. I know some people are going, hey, that means we're going to get to maybe see him back on WWE Pro. I don't think so. I don't think it's Ted DiBiase Jr. I'm telling you guys that right now. I don't think it's Ted DiBiase Jr. Meanwhile, Gail Kim and TNA, they are set to enter mediation over lawsuit. Remember, TNA's lawsuit against Gail Kim. We kind of talked about it before, but basically TNA's parent company, Anthem Wrestling Exhibitions, they filed a lawsuit against Kim back in January. The lawsuit alleges that Kim informed the company after her March 2025 exit from TNA that she believes she holds legal claims against AWE for, again, Anthem Wrestling Exhibitions for violations of the Florida Private Whistleblower Act. PW Insider was reporting that according to Nashville Chancery Court records, Anthem and Kim will be entering mediation on June 24th to try and resolve the issues between the two sides. Kim has an extension on the deadline for her response to the lawsuit until after the mediation. Lawsuit alleges that all issues between Kim and Anthem should be governed by Tennessee law and should not be subject to the Florida whistleblower law. Anthem is arguing that since Kim was an independent contractor, she has no legally claims basically against them based on Florida law. They're asking the court to declare that all disputes between Kim and Anthem be governed by Tennessee law and that she cannot assert claims against them for alleged violations of Florida state statutes. It's unclear what potential claims Kim would have against TNA, as those are not listed in the lawsuit. But that's the latest update that's going on with that. So other than that, it kind of been relatively quiet. I know CMLL did something over the weekend. I have not yet watched that event. I'm hoping that later this week I'll be able to sit down and do so. I know this much. If you are trying to look for all the previous NXT PLEs, those things are no longer on Peacock, as WWE has now moved all of that to the NXT channel on YouTube. So go check that out. Now, for those of you going, great, I can now cancel my Peacock subscription. Pump the brakes, kid. So Peacock is still going to be the home for Saturday night's main event. Remember, they just inked a new deal for that. So at least for the next year or two, that relationship is going to continue to be ongoing. In addition to that, it would appear that as far as future NXT PLEs go, if I remember that correctly, hang on. I know the next one is going to be NXT Stand and Deliver. Stand and Deliver, that will be streaming live on YouTube in the US, and it will be streaming on Netflix. So again, beginning effectively with NXT Stand and Deliver 2026, pretty much going into WrestleMania weekend, you'll be able to watch that on the Netflix YouTube channel. Oh, correction. Sorry, guys. The WWE YouTube channel. You know, they got probably those different subdivision channels on WWE on YouTube. Just go there. You'll be able to find it. It'll be very easy for you to find. Meanwhile, for those of you that's wondering what does this mean for the NXT on the CW, well, remember, they re-upped their deal, if I remember correctly. I believe it was October of 2024 that NXT and the CW, or rather WWE and the CW, they inked out a 5-year deal for NXT. So NXT on CW is not going anywhere for the next handful of years, for those of you that give a damn. So there's that. Other than that, y'all, that is relatively it. I know some of you guys probably would love it if I would talk about the whole Ricochet social media stuff. I'm not giving that guy no press whatsoever. Just, you know, yeah, just whatever. Congratulations are in order apparently for Marie Malenko, daughter of the great Dean Malenko, as reportedly she has signed to WWE. If that's true, major congratulations are in order for her. But before we get ready to dip out, I want to take this time out and I want to recognize some of our show sponsors, because without them, content like what you're checking out right now would not be made possible. Shout out to our good friends over at Q4CD.com. If you've recently been diagnosed with prostate cancer or knowing someone that has recently been diagnosed with prostate cancer, before making treatment decisions, get clarity from someone who's been there. Questions for cancer doctors, Q4CD.com. You can chat with Dr. Williams, who's a retired lieutenant colonel and radiation oncologist. Helps men and veterans understand their options and ask the right questions before moving forward. There's also a book that you can download that is full of really great information, and you can eventually set yourself up for a one-on-one consultation if you'd like to do so. Q4CD.com. Again, that's Q4CD.com, because the right questions leads to the right decisions. The RCWR show with Lee Sanders is also brought to you in part by RX for Humanity. Learn more by visiting dnpdaniels.com, where healthcare isn't just clinical, it's human. RX for Humanity is a powerful digital guide for nurses, students, and healthcare professionals ready to confront bias and practice with deeper compassion and accountability, featuring real ER stories, practical strategies, and tools you can apply right at the bedside. Download your copy today at dnpdaniels.com. And be sure to also follow Miss Daniels, who is the author of this book and everything. Brittany is her first name. Be sure to give her a follow all on her social media accounts at Black Queer Nurse. You heard me right. You can follow her all throughout socials at Black Queer Nurse. Very happy to have these guys as sponsors of the RCWR show with Lee Sanders. Again, I'm kind of excited that spring break is now over, but now it's like I got to go in and I got to do this grind for the next couple of weeks. I'm glad we were able to go a little bit all over the place on this show, and at the hour 35-minute mark too. That's really, really good. I will have you guys know I saw more of my grades because a lot of my professors, they didn't have the midterm grades up yet for some of my classes, and they were like, during the spring break, gonna publish your grades, let you guys know how you're doing, da 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 da. And so now all the grades have been posted, and I just wanted to share with you guys A's all across the board. So if I can just hold out for like 7 more weeks, your man's gonna be on the dean's list. So I like that. I like that. That's very, very good. I needs that. I want to continue to get that. I like being on the dean's list. Be kind, will ya? Rewind. Check out previous episodes you might have missed of the RCWR show on demand and on the downloads wherever you get your podcasts. Just search the RCWR show. Shout out to friends of the show. Shout out to Julian Cannon of the Nocturnal and Digiday. Shout out to my good man Mitch Thomas and Joe Numbers of Wrestling Soup. And if you guys have not checked out the YouTube channel, make sure you're showing that some love. Been getting into the habit of uploading more foodie reviews. We also have clips that's going up on the regular. Latest foodie review, we have this ice cream that I reviewed recently. Probably one of the worst foodie reviews ever that I've done so far to date. It is Kellogg's Pops ice cream. Sounds good, right? Especially if you love Pops. Gotta have your Pops. Not so fast. Pump the brakes. Check out that video when you get a chance. That's a fun little journey in itself that you guys will be seeing. I promise you guys. Make sure you subscribe over there as well and all that good jazz. You can get at me all throughout social media as well. Use the keywords the RCWR show. And until next go round, my pretty babies, as far as your next edition, I know Tams is talking about doing a wrestling with the topics this coming weekend. I mean, we just did one coming out of the weekend we were just in. She wants to try to see if we can go ahead and do another one later in the week. I'll keep you guys posted on that one. Reason being, she's going to be out of town the following week. So it's kind of one of those, and I get where she's coming from too. So I think we're going to try to do something this weekend. As long as you're staying connected throughout social media, you guys will know the skinny on what's going down. Meantime, be safe, be kind to one another. I will see you guys next go round. Take care, y'all. Peace.